What is up, y'all? Manny, Carrera, your real estate resource, and this is episode number 42 of Whiskey Wednesday podcast session. I'm going to be your guest. I'm not your guest. I'm actually your host, and I'm here with my special guest. She is the owner and marketing director for BundleBee Insurance here in El Paso, Texas. I'm going to be joined by Victoria Hahn. Victoria, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Thank you for being on the show and inviting us here to your office, right? We're here at this cool backdrop. This obviously isn't my office. This is your new spot, right?
Yes. Well, actually, we've been here for 15 years.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
You just remodeled.
Yes.
Okay, so there's something new about this place, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's for
awesome.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This is episode number 42. Super excited to have you on. I know we've been talking for a couple weeks already, trying to make it happen, but we're finally here. And we're actually in an office setting right now too. So you're gonna hear phones. You're gonna hear people talking in the background. You guys are still working.
Yeah.
What time is it right now?
It's 15 till 7, so yeah.
15 till 7. When your insurance company closes at 5, they're still
we don't.
working. Yeah, this is crazy. So thank you so much again. We're going to be sipping on some new whiskey. I actually brought a bottle myself, but we walked into some of you guys taste testing some whiskey. You said I inspired taste testing going on back here.
You did. They're already drunk in the back.
Yeah. So what happened? What did you guys? What happened?
Well, my dad went over to get some whiskey because he saw your podcast, and he was like, "Well, I'm going to bring a couple bottles and see how we like it." And then they ended up drinking back there, and so one thing led to another, and now they're drunk back there.
Now we're all whiskey connoisseurs.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Well, I actually stole one of the bottles that we were trying back there. We tried 3 different ones, and this one's actually one of my favorites too. I think your dad's favorite as well.
Yeah.
Chestnut Farms. This is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey.
Oh yes,
so
I'm sorry.
your dad got super knowledgeable on whiskey also, right?
Yeah,
he
did.
Kind of doing some research on it. So whiskey's pretty complicated to some people, but I think overall, like for me, whiskey. I told you guys that I was a tequila drinker. I love tequila. But for me, like whiskey's just a conversation piece. Like,
that's true.
You drink whiskey and it's over an easy conversation, about life, about business, about whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's all taken care
every other drink that I could think of is more of a party.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
So that's cool. But really good whiskey. Are you a whiskey drinker yourself?
I'm not myself,
No?
but
are you a drinker?
I am. It's vodka for me.
Vodka?
Yeah.
Wild. I cannot drink vodka.
Vodka and beer. That's
blackout. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like beer. So cool. Again, super excited for you guys to be here. We have a bunch of coworkers. Hopefully, we'll get to meet some of them right now.
Yeah,
right?
you can.
Yeah,
if you want to.
We'll definitely get to meet the crew. But let's start off by you kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Okay, I am actually. My name is Victoria Hahn. I grew up here in El Paso, so forever. And it's funny because when I left for school, I went to school at St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, Indiana. It's actually the all-girls school across the street from Notre Dame. So
we're Notre Dame, the movie.
Yeah, and everything like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was that experience?
It was really cool. It's an all-girls college. At first, I was like, I'm not gonna, I don't know how this is gonna be.
Right,
I don't know, but I have my roommates from college that have remained my best of friends. So
awesome.
and it's great because we can get together and go to a football game once a year. I
actually haven't. El Paso? Or?
No, they're from Chicago, Pennsylvania, everywhere.
That's awesome.
And so it's nice because we go to football games. It brings us all together. So
that's cool.
So it's a lot of fun. And I actually got my degree in political science.
Sweet.
So I thought I was going to do politics.
So you went from running for president to insurance.
Insurance,
yeah. That's awesome.
So when I got my degree, I was like, well, because I never wanted to do insurance. I saw my parents do the insurance. I was like, I don't want to do, it's something, well, one, I didn't want to move back to El Paso. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to travel and live the big city life. And then I didn't want to do insurance. And then the crazy part is it brings you back. And I think the thing is with El Paso is that you take a lot of it for granted, and then once you go out there in the city,
100%,
you realize the grind out there, and it's completely different.
Yeah, I think El Paso just has that home factor for sure, but El Paso has its own speed. You go to the East Coast, you go to the West Coast, and you could compare a lot of cities to just being fast, right? Everything's super fast paced, but El Paso has this very chill way of doing things, but we have our own specific way, little
Yeah.
Latin way of doing things.
And everyone knows each other.
Yeah. It's a small, big city, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I love El Paso. So you didn't want to come back, but insurance.
Yeah, so I didn't want to come back, and then I met my husband, and he was the one that was, I was actually going to move, and it was kind of like a love at first sight thing, and after that I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be here doing insurance the rest of my life.
Right.
So
life brought you back.
Yeah, life brought me back. So at the time, my parents had, they had the largest farmers agency in West Texas at the time. With farmers, and what I noticed that when I came back, they really didn't have any type of social media or anything like that. They weren't going out there and marketing. They weren't doing that. Actually, a lot of their stuff was from referrals. So they have such a good client base that they really build those relationships with those clients.
Yeah.
So
because that's how it worked.
Yeah.
10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and so thank God that they had done those great relationships, because we had the parents, the grandparents, the kids, you name it, we had everyone. So that was the beauty part of it when they started it 34 years ago.
34 years. So you guys have been in the business for 34 years. And
Yeah.
obviously had a lot of different, facelifts, renovations, remodels, and things like that too. So talking about this subject, because this is actually one of my questions, I love, focusing on the marketing aspect of it. How different do you think your parents had it 34 years ago? Aside from just the referrals, but getting the business out there, getting the name out there. How different was it 34 years ago compared to now?
Well, my dad was saying he would go door to door, and then his thing was he was actually telling us this in a meeting that he would, if people bought policies, he would give them a microwave.
No way.
Back in the day, yeah. So they would, and they were cold calling, doing the yellow pages and everything like that. And then the office was like a one-room office, so it's nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
So
that's insane. Cool. So obviously they didn't have the tools that we have right now, right?
No, not at all.
What would you say as far as 2019? What are you doing right now for that, as far as marketing, getting the name out there?
What I'm trying to do is just build brand awareness. I think that's one thing that we needed to do with the new logo, because we just opened up a month ago with our new company. We sold our farmers agency, and now we started a brokerage to where we represent all the insurance companies instead of one. And that's another reason of how we're changing, because we're going with the times. It's hard to stick with one company and not have that sort of selection. And
you're in a generation where there's just choice, right?
Exactly. And it's easy access.
Yeah. I find this story so fascinating, but when Baskin Robbins 31 Flavors first came into effect, they you go into 31 Flavors and there's just so many different ice creams. You walk in there liking chocolate, but end up trying 6 different ones because you're confused and don't know if you like chocolate anymore, right?
Yeah, that's
the downfall of choice, is that it leaves you with so much to think about that sometimes you don't even make that decision right then and there. And when ice cream first came out, it was 2 flavors, chocolate and vanilla, and that was it, chocolate and vanilla. So there wasn't much to think about. It's either you like chocolate or you like vanilla.
Yeah.
But now it's the power of choice can be a downfall to some because there's so much to think about. But nowadays, I think that having the opportunity to offer every single thing that is out there and not be shorthanded on your own stuff, right? You don't lose that business just because you don't offer this type of insurance that they need.
Exactly.
Right. So how has that really helped the business as far as offering now every type of insurance, or a lot more types of insurance?
Everyone has been super excited about it, because the other thing was that when, with farmers, when rates would go up, there wasn't anything that we could do. And after a while, we would lose the clients that we had great relationships with because they couldn't afford the insurance pricing.
Right.
And that was really sad for us, because we had people for 30 years. So what we decided was, once that kept on going on, we're like, okay, well, we need to make a change while we're on top. And so that's why we decided to sell and do the brokerage, to where now we're not losing the client. We can offer every single option out there, and we're not fitting a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
Because what a lot of people don't realize is that most insurance companies now, one size doesn't fit all. So if you're with a State Farm, if you're with the Farmers, if you're with an Allstate, it doesn't work for everyone because everyone's got different life situations.
Right.
So that's the beauty part of it. Now it's like, okay, well, let's see if this will fit you. Let's see if this will fit you. And we go from there. And if the rate goes up a year or two from now, we can reshop it. So it's not, now we're representing more of the client.
Right. And you're obviously looking out for their best interests. What are some of the typical packages or services that you guys do offer or cover?
We do a ton, like especially with homes. We have so many different options with home insurance, and obviously we do auto too. But on homes, what I notice is when people are buying a home, and you can correct me because you're the real estate guy.
Right.
But when people are buying a home, especially when it's a first-time home buyer, they're getting so much thrown at them at once.
For sure, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, that they're like, okay, well, I mean, the insurance is the last thing they think about. So it's our job to bring that attention and to get them all the information they need for the insurance, because what happens is sometimes they just go with whatever policy and they don't realize what they have until a claim happens, and then they're like, wait, I didn't know my deductible was that high.
Yeah. And who do they call? Me.
They're like, Manny,
call the
you just
realtor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So.
and a couple of weeks ago we met at Starbucks, and that's what excites me, is that you actually are out there building the brand. And we sat at Starbucks and you just talked to me about the business, talked to me about how you can help my clients, and that to me was a lot of value. But I think it's also cool because in the past my clients have always just, at that point when it's time to pick insurance companies, it's very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And they're calling me, asking me, calling different agents and different companies just trying to get quotes, when you're acting as a one-stop shop, right?
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing about it, is you really taking the simplicity and adding it into picking that home insurance company.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then we'll go over all the coverages so that way they know too, and they have options, and they can see, okay, this is going to be this deductible, this is going to be that, and look at the price differences and everything. So it makes it great that we're able to do that. And what I tell a lot of people, especially clients, is that when you call a company directly, like let's say you go through a Geico or anything like that, you're not going to get the TLC that you will with us. A lot of people have my cell phone number, can contact me on Instagram or email me or on Facebook if they have questions. We have an awesome staff that they take really good care of our clients too. And obviously my parents help out a lot on that stuff. So we have a really good team that if someone is getting insurance, they're going to be feeling really at home here too. And with a lot of the real estate community, we work with a lot of you guys, and it's a relationship too, to where you guys know that if you send them here, they're going to be taken care of too.
Right. And I think that's super important, especially building those relationships. Even in my industry, I'm looking for people that I can connect with and trust with my clients. Because for me, it's like, as a realtor, it's precious cargo.
Yeah.
It takes me so much time to find that person that's looking for a house, and at the same time, I want to take care of them the entire way. And what you're offering is definitely one of those key components that every realtor, I think, needs.
Yeah.
How is your kind of experience or kind of exposure with realtors help the business as well? Is that a big part of the business?
Realtors and lenders, that's a huge part. We have such a great following because we've had such a great relationship with realtors for so long, and lenders, that they really, respect, and they really appreciate that we go above and beyond. I'm not just like, oh, here's your price and that's it. Mm-hmm. We do open houses, we do different marketing. I do all the digital stuff that goes out here. I try to think about anything different that we can do. Like we did a scavenger hunt a couple of years ago with all the builders. So that way it's not just benefiting me, it's benefiting everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think those things are fun. I was actually part of that scavenger
hunt.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
After everyone went to Born and Raised?
Yeah.
That was
yes.
That was horrible.
I know.
We haven't done it since because that was a really bad idea.
Well, and then I had my kids, so we'll probably be doing something similar. Yeah. Everyone's been asking for
Honestly,
that too.
Yeah, that was so fun. We hosted a open house at Pacifica.
Yeah.
And everyone that came in ended up staying there for hours because they were just getting slammed with shots and stuff. So.
Yeah, and I liked it because, one, it was like getting everyone's builder out there, but everyone was just having fun and just being goofy and stupid, and it was like just a big party.
Yeah, definitely. The real estate industry in general is just a huge industry because there's so many components, so many different departments in it. And El Paso, I think, in general, just has grown, right? We were talking about it while we were doing our whiskey tasting back there, but El Paso is just, I feel like in the last 3-4 years, has just exploded. So how has that also, helped the business? Have you guys seen that growth overall in the last couple of years?
We have, especially with the builders, because we have really good relationships with a lot of the builders in El Paso, and they are just freaking closing houses like
They're
crazy,
pumping out houses like
nothing, huh? It's insane. So that definitely has helped. And then we actually had a carrier that they noticed that we did a lot of new construction, so they were like I said, it's a great resource that we have, but they were like, well, the new construction, if you get new construction, we'll give you 50% off the premium. So that's a huge, huge plus out here for sure.
Right. What's average? What would you say premium is average right now?
For new construction, I'd say, depending on the house, let's say $500 to $600, and then for the year. And then for resales, it's about, like I said, average home, nothing crazy. I'd say about $800 to $1,000. Because homes, this is the other thing that a lot of people don't realize with home insurance is that, let's say you're getting a home that's $100,000. Well, what people don't realize is if it's a brick home or if it's a resale, the insurance company's guaranteeing that we're going to rebuild the house the same way it is today. Well, in El Paso, they don't really do brick anymore. So,
right, it's rare.
Yeah, because it's super expensive.
Yeah, or $300.
So, like, when you run a quote, and like, let's say, like, Victoria, can you guys run a quote, and it comes out to $150,000 worth of coverage, that's why. Because we have to do it based on how much it's going to take to rebuild that house, not the loan or anything like that. We don't care about the loan. We want to make sure the house is going to be the same way. If it goes up in flames, you're covered there.
That's awesome. I know, as an insurance agent, I feel like you've just heard some of the craziest stories ever, right?
Yes.
What is one of the most craziest story that stands out in your career?
Oh my gosh, we've had. I'm trying to. I mean, crazy like
your definition of crazy, whatever, bad, good, insane.
Oh my gosh! I mean, we've had really bad ones too. That I'm trying to think about specific ones that are coming up to my mind, but a lot of it teenage drivers. That's a big one that a lot of them get in accidents, and they do the 3-car pallets
every freaking day in every street in El Paso. It's crazy.
They and that's what people don't realize too, because they're like, well, why does the auto insurance keep on going up? And if you notice today, there's so many accidents out there because people are distracted, they're texting and driving, they're not paying attention to the road, and we all pay for the same. We're all in the same pot. Right. So even though you might not have any accidents, you're still paying for someone like me that gets into some accidents here and there.
Right. So my premium would still go up even though it's your fault. Mm-hmm. Right. That's horrible.
I know. I'm just being honest, because a lot of people are always like, well, why does it go up? My driving record's good. I don't have any issues or anything like that. Unfortunately, everyone says. It's like taxes.
Now, would you say that texting and driving is probably one of the biggest issues here in El Paso? Or is it drinking?
Hands down.
Drinking and driving.
I wouldn't even say it's drinking and driving too much. Not anymore, because everything's so...
Cops are everywhere.
Right?
They crack down. I think Texas, obviously I lived in Florida, you lived outside of El Paso as well, and I think Texas just really doesn't mess around when it comes to any of that stuff. Texas is hard.
Well, the only place I have seen that's been worse is Phoenix, because they have Tent City.
True.
So that's the only one that I've seen.
Everyone driving to Phoenix gets tickets.
Yeah, so I'm like, DMX even got one out.
Mm-hmm. Went to jail, right?
Yeah. And he was staying away from Arizona.
He made it public.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So talk to me about, the experience. Obviously, you guys have been around for 34 years, and your parents started it, right?
Yeah.
So, in coming into the business, what were some things that, maybe were challenging for you to kind of understand and grasp as far as what they've already, built?
Well, I think a lot of it, when I first started to come in, that's when Facebook and Instagram really hadn't been, and I'm not aging myself, but Instagram really wasn't a big deal or anything like that. But I think my biggest challenge was explaining to, especially my dad, the need to go out there, because he just sees it oh, you just are throwing parties. Oh, this is going to cost this much. This is going to cost that much. And I told him, I said, you have to put stuff out there in order for people to understand how great we are, because I think that they were just in like a bubble and they knew that they were good, but I don't think they realized how good they were compared to the competitors, because honestly, they're a rock, and there was a farmer's agent, and there was a reason why they grew it so much. It was because they, like I said, they're awesome with the relationship. So I was like, you need to tell people how long you've been here. We need to show them the office. We need to, have different events to where we're broadcasting it. And I think that was my biggest struggle, was with my dad going over return on investment and how much everything was going to cost.
Figuring out everything. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's like...
Because it was a completely new thing.
Right. This is like opening up a brand new business. Because I think marketing then shifts, right? Mm-hmm. The marketing budget and attention has to shift. Especially nowadays, it's just crazy how much relevance you have to pay attention to when it comes down to being on all of these platforms. And there's a million of them.
Yeah.
It's like, there's some coming up all the time. The newest one that I'm trying to get into right now is TikTok. I don't know if we were talking about that last
time. We were. I went on it, and I'm like so confused by it, because I'm like, I don't think anyone wants to see me like dance or do anything like that.
Yeah. It's honestly like, it's taking me a kind of a creative curve right now also, because I feel like for Instagram and Facebook and even Snap, I can
you're solid.
But with like TikTok, for example, it's more of a Vine, and I think with those you have to be very cinematically creative,
Yeah.
So, but I think it's still important to get into those. So I force myself to get into that. Clocking out.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, they get to go home.
We're like, you gotta stay.
Right. No, that's but yeah, so being on all these platforms, I could see how that was definitely a challenge, and it's always a learning curve. The biggest, I guess, kind of scare that I have, I literally think about this every single day, is what if Instagram doesn't work today? Like, what if Instagram doesn't work today?
I would die.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, I would, because talking to you, you're the one that like got me into like saying, hey, you need to look at all the stuff. Right. So yeah, actually you have really helped me in that. So that way I'm not just focused just on Instagram or Facebook.
Right,
it's, it's a whole general thing.
Yeah. And that's what we all fall into. And luckily, like, this podcast can go to so many, it's like 13 different platforms right now.
Yeah.
Just with a podcast. But some of these platforms I've never even heard of, but there's people listening, and that's where it's at. It's where the attention's at. So I can see how your dad definitely may have struggled too in the reevaluating the entire business part.
I mean, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but I'm going to tell you this. So when we were doing a lot of the rebranding and marketing and everything like that, because my mom has a really good eye with a lot of the way things look.
She does. By the way, like, her mom decorated this entire place really, really nice.
She's crazy.
She did a great job.
She's got the eye for it.
Yeah.
So with my dad, with the marketing side, he thought, what's a good idea for marketing? Bench ads. And I think I almost died when he told me that. And I was like, I'm like, no.
Dad, no.
So that was one example where we're going back and forth about that, because I'm like, I'd rather spend that same on my realtors, on my lenders, on going out there, on our customers, and doing different things like that. So that's what I specifically try to do, is bring something different. Mom, can you take my comment?
You just went dark a little bit.
I'm all about
I'm like, sorry, it went dark. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, I hear you. I think, even I experienced it too, coming into real estate 2.5 years ago, going on 3 now. I was talking to some of the biggest agents here in El Paso.
Yeah.
And asking them, what are you doing right now? And how are you getting your leads right now? And probably 98% of the biggest realtors in El Paso that have been doing it for more than 5-10 years all said referrals.
Yeah.
They're just chilling on referrals. And obviously they built a foundation for themselves in their business, which I think you definitely need to do, as strong as what they did. But if you're missing out on all those other platforms, those referrals are eventually going to ask nowadays, let me see if I follow them, or let me follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Let me follow them on Facebook. And when they can't find you, I think it devalues the business too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just crazy how social media has really changed the game right now.
It really has.
It's crazy. But as in your position, focusing on the marketing part, I think it's cool to see how you're understanding it as well too, because it changes every single day. Like
It
you
does.
have to really be on top of this game.
Yeah, and honestly, and like I tell everyone, because my background is not marketing, but I thought of like if I was buying an insurance policy, what would I want? Because let's be honest, insurance is boring. So
Right.
I have to bring something fun to make people interested in it. Because honestly, after 5 minutes, you lose them. So it's like, okay, what different ways can we make it fun to where, hey, if we give them a glass of wine, maybe they'll listen a little bit more, or
Their focus tends to go.
yeah, exactly, or just different things to where it's not so like uptight. We want to make it to where people feel comfortable. They feel like they're part of the family when they're dealing their business with us.
Definitely. So, talk to me a little bit about the industry, the insurance industry here in El Paso. What is the industry like here? Is there a lot of competition? Things like that.
Well, like I said, you throw a rock and there's an insurance company.
Yeah.
There is, just because there's so much business out here and everything.
Yeah.
What I noticed with a lot of the insurance companies out there is that, well, one, there's a lot, but the problem is, if you're dealing with one person, like we said, all these different entities as far as business, if it was just my dad or just my mom or just me, I couldn't handle everything that was coming at once. So that's one thing. So even though we do have a lot of competition, we really don't, because my dad handles the admin, my mom deals with a lot of the employees and all that stuff.
Ready for more
and I deal with all the marketing, so that way we don't intertwine, but also we're not bombarded with a bunch of all of us aren't doing the exact same thing. So that's what I think it's hard for somebody that's just starting an insurance company that, they have to do it all and do the clients. And, so it's not really the same situation. So that's one thing. And then two, what I noticed with a lot of these agents is that they don't read their policies, so they don't know what they're selling. Our sales guys actually know more than what a lot of these guys that open up, because again, they're throwing so much information and they're running,
especially if you're buying a house.
Yeah, and these agents are buying an insurance company, and then they're thrown into all the taxes and like all the admin stuff, and so they don't really know the coverages that very well. We have tons of people. When we hire people, none of the people we have, none of them had insurance experience, and the reason why was that I wanted people without any bad habits, and for me, you can teach insurance all day. It's like another education, honestly, but you can't teach the hustle, and so that's what I tell them. It's like we don't look at resumes really. It's like how usually when I'm out in the street and I see somebody that's really good at sales or something, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you're great. You'll be good out there. I'm like, if you can deal with this, you can deal with insurance.
Yeah. And I think building the right team, especially, is the most important part of.
That's what it is.
Of being in business, right? So, how important do you feel is culture, building a culture in business, and building that right team, keeping everyone and putting everyone in the right place?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. When we are looking for people, because we all gel well together. None of us are like, well, this guy gets this many leads, this guy gets that many leads, and we all work really well together. And we also have a lot of fun too, so it's not like an uptight office to where it's being micromanaged or anything like that.
This is a fun office.
Yeah, so
I want a job here.
So we do require a lot of work. They do have to work a lot, but it's not like they can't have a little fun with it too.
Sure.
And and my thing is that I'm trying to bring in new blood, new people that would want to come in as insurance as a career, because a lot of people don't think of it as a career. They're like, especially, I feel like the younger generations, they want to be like influencers, or it's not something that's going to make them happy.
YouTubers.
Yeah, and so I have to bring like, hey, it can be fun. It's a great living because you're building that residual income.
Right.
So it's just kind of explaining it and kind of changing people's mindset on that.
True. Yeah, definitely. What are some situations where you've been super grateful to be in this position and be offering insurance to people? Has there been a situation where you were able to help a client out in a tremendous way that they were just so grateful that you were there helping them.
You know what? I do have a funny story for that. And he's going to kill me, but whatever. He'll be fine.
Hopefully he's listening. I hope you're listening.
One of the things that I love the most is when, I get to talk about what we do for insurance, because like sometimes people are like, well, I don't need an insurance agent. I'm like, just like you need a good attorney and a good accountant, you do need a good insurance agent. Because I don't care what you said. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't care what you think you know, you don't, unless you're doing it. Trust me, we've seen it all in 34 years. Yeah. I'm not that old, but
life happens. Like you can't control what happens when you're driving, and that guy is not paying attention, or your house, is chilling, and a storm comes by and dumps hell on you, right?
Yeah.
So you can't control those things. You need insurance.
Well, in fact, so that being said, I had one of them was actually my husband's cousin was moving here from California, and so he bought this beautiful house on the west side, and he was wanting to save money on the premium. So he had said, well, Victoria, let's just go with the high deductible, and we'll just leave it at that. So that way the premium's less with the monthly
Because
mortgage.
nothing's going to happen to my house.
Well, and so it was just funny because I was like, no, that's a really high deductible. And so I kept on telling him, and he was like, no, it's okay. Well, then they got their auto insurance. And so with the multi-policy discount that they had, I switched the deductible to a lower one, to a $500 deductible. And he didn't even notice because there was no cost difference once he did the multi-policy discount. But I was like, I'm doing it for his benefit. So fast forward, I would say 3 to 4 months later, they go out of town, their house floods.
No.
Yes.
Oh
So they also had
That's
a limitless,
horrible,
and so that would have cost them thousands of dollars had I not changed that one little thing. And
sure.
and then it's a limitless water coverage, so they had all wood floors. They do have all wood floors. So it was crazy how much it cost, and then the insurance company.
Real wood's expensive.
Yeah.
That's why they make really good laminate and ceramic.
Yeah. And then and then they had to live with their 2 kids, the 2 sons. They had to live in a hotel for a little while the home was being redone for the flooring. So that was a good one where I was like, this is why you have me that can explain.
So he only paid $500 and got everything taken care of?
Yes.
Hotel too?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
and,
and people don't
and
think
he didn't
that.
know. He thought he was going to pay the high deductible.
Yeah. Well, and then when it happened, he was like, well, Victoria, and I was like, I got you. So to this day, I don't let him live it down.
Keeping that.
I'm like, remember who got you? Me.
Yeah, hopefully you got a nice steak or something.
Yeah, I was like, come on now. So that's what I tell a lot of people. You don't think about that stuff because, I bet you wouldn't think that you'd have to live somewhere else or anything like that.
Right. You don't think, especially if you just moved in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Ago,
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't even cross your mind buying a house.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people in the very beginning of moving into a new house or a used house, they just feel like the house is invisible and it's been here for 30 years, nothing's going to happen in the next 30 years.
Yeah.
But, everything that you don't think could happen,
it happens.
Ends up happening when you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Right? Has there been any situations where unfortunately somebody declined insurance and ended up needing it and, try to...
Well, a lot of the only thing that, because we have packages, and so a lot of times, like if a client doesn't understand the value in having us, sometimes we might not be a good fit because if they're really, really price driven, to me, it's not worth my time because you're never going to make that client happy if they're like shopping you every $10 or every $5 that goes up. So luckily, we didn't have any of that stuff. The biggest problem is that when a lot of people buy homes, they don't think of life insurance. So,
So why life insurance? Why would somebody consider life insurance?
Because, and this is another one, if you have the husband working and the wife staying at home, they don't even think like, hey, you want to make sure you have a life insurance to cover your wife and kids if something were to happen.
And vice versa.
Yeah,
right?
and vice versa, because
you're
kids
staying at home.
Yeah, with the kids, that's childcare.
Yeah.
So a lot of people either think that life insurance is included in the home, and it's not, or we offer it and they decline the coverage on that because they're like, well, we can't afford it, like we're moving into a new house, because again, they're bombarded with everything, and that's probably the biggest thing that, which is the most heartbreaking thing too, is when I have, when you have the client come in and they're their spouse has passed away and there's nothing you can do.
Because they were so concerned with the initial monthly payment. Right?
Exactly. And, term life, and there's a bunch of different policies, but I say at least just get a term policy that covers the mortgage or do something. But, it is a sad thing that a lot of people don't think about. Because they don't want to think about that, and no one does. It's like wills. And that's another thing that we do with our clients is that we work with an attorney that he gives our clients wills and trusts as well. And he gives it to them at a very discounted rate. He only charges them whatever the amount is to file the actual document. So we go out of our way to be an added value for that client as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're right, a lot of people don't even think about life insurance, right? No one thinks they're going to die. We're all going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. What other services or, as an insurance agent, what services or what types of coverage do you feel like the average person should have?
That doesn't.
That has a job, that has a house, that drives a car.
Oh, well, for auto insurance, hands down,
Obviously,
is the worst. I mean,
especially here. If it sprinkles, there's 30 accidents.
Well, and then it's just the coverages. Most people are like, if you say, hey, Victoria, can you write my car, whatever the car is, can you get full coverage? Well, if I am the guy down the street that doesn't know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm not educating you as a client what full coverage is, what a lot of people don't realize, they think full coverage is everything. You get in an accident, and if someone hits you without insurance, you're covered. If your car's totaled, you get rental, and you get roadside assistance and all that.
Yeah.
And you get medical coverage.
Somebody else is driving your car.
Yeah, and you get medical coverage. Well, it's not. And so when we have a lot of clients that come in for their full coverage, they only have liability, comp, and collision. So it only covers you if you get in an accident or if your car's totaled. But it doesn't cover you if you get a hit and run or an uninsured motorist. It doesn't cover your medical expenses. It doesn't cover rental and towing.
I actually experienced that in Florida. It was horrible. I thought I was covered in my BMW, and it ended up being first of all, the body shop hustled me.
Yeah.
It was totaled, and they said it wasn't totaled.
Oh, no.
So I paid $13,000 out of pocket to fix my BMW because I didn't want to let it go, right?
Yeah.
And the insurance just right off the bat just told me no, they're not going to cover me. And I thought I was covered.
Yeah, because you're like, I have full coverage.
I had full coverage, yeah. Can I name them?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I don't care. Well, and that's
honestly, I guess it's really not the insurance company, right? It's who helped you and picking the right policy.
Exactly.
The issue with me was that I had the coverage in Texas, then I moved to Florida and never told me that I was in Florida.
And so they were like,
that was the issue.
And each company's different.
Right. So it is what it is. It happened. But I learned too, right off the bat, I need to know what I'm covered for, so I could understand fully what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, and I tell 90% of the people that we do the auto insurance through with full coverage, they're not written correctly, or they think that they are, and then when we come in and explain the coverages, they're like, what do you mean this isn't covered? What do you mean we don't have rental? What do you mean it's not covered if we go across the border? That's another one. What do you mean if
So border, that's a big...
Yeah, some companies don't cover if you go across the
do?
border. Yeah, we do have companies that do that. You have to let us know, and that's another reason why we talk and we're like, do you go across the border? Or let's say if I were to drive your car, some companies don't cover that if I get in an accident with your car because it's a name insured policy. So these are all things that people don't realize when you're buying an insurance policy. It's a contract. You're signing it, and
it's kind of like a little personal game plan, right?
Yeah.
What is your life like?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And so that's the great part about us. We pretty much try to put it together. We're like, okay, this is what your life is like if you have whatever you have going on, and then we structure it around that. Whereas one company, it's too hard to do that with one company.
Right. You talked right now about maybe we're not the right company for somebody that's looking for
price.
But has there ever been any situations where you have to deny coverage for some sort of...
No, because we don't do that. Because we're not about the price-driven stuff.
No, but as far as I want to insure my dog.
We can do pet insurance too.
What? That's
Yeah, I'm
insane.
like, we do pet insurance
So then
too.
there's nothing.
Yeah, we insure
I just thought about the most ridiculous thing, and you cover that.
Yeah,
also.
we do the dogs too. Ubers, like you name it, we think of it all. That's another thing that people don't realize too. On some of the insurance contracts that they have with, if they're Uber drivers, they might not be covered. Isn't that scary?
That's crazy.
And you're in the car
Nowadays,
with them.
you're in an Uber at least once a month.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's insane. So everyone needs insurance, right?
Everyone does, and that's what my job is, to explain to people why they need certain coverages. And so I feel like if most of the time, especially with this model, we have been really price effective, and I mean we've saved this one gentleman $1,000 on his home the other day, which is great. But I don't want to constantly say, hey, we're going to save you $1,000. I feel like I'm worth the extra, money that you're paying, but most of the time it's not anything crazy. You're looking at $5 for the year or $10 for the year.
Right. But with that, you're getting local support.
Yeah.
You're getting your cell phone number.
Yeah, you're getting your cell phone. If you have a problem, you can always call
How
me.
accessible are you? Because we talked about this at Starbucks. And
Like,
it's
so
fun laughing.
accessible. Yeah, it's crazy. People can call me. I mean, you might hear my kids in the background, but I'm always around.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting, especially when in all these interviews that I've sat down with, entrepreneurs and business owners, I feel like there's definitely a pattern with a lot of people like that, and we're all very work understanding as far as, you're married, you
Yeah.
have a husband, you have a baby now, and how important, is that work-life balance? Because obviously the hustle has to be there,
Yeah,
especially
for sure.
for you and your husband, right? Because your
Yeah.
husband's also in the industry,
For sure.
and phones are going off at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock sometimes.
Yeah.
So how important, one, is it to find somebody that's, one, understanding,
Yeah.
right, and is able to work with you on that, and then two, how important is that work-life balance when it comes down to under your roof?
Well, it's extremely important because, like, right now, I'm like, oh, I'm with Manny, I'm going to do a podcast. He's like, if he wasn't in the industry and he didn't understand, he'd be like, well, who's Manny? Where are you going to go with him?
He's sitting right
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So,
Welcome to
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it makes it easier that we're both in it, we both know everyone, and it makes our life easier because if his phone rings or my phone rings, we understand what's going on, and we're dealing with in our industry things that, like, you're dealing with a lot of clients, and there's a lot of moving parts that go with it.
For sure.
So it's extremely important to have somebody that understands and is, okay with you saying, like, hey, I have a podcast I have to go to. This is the way we have to do it. And so you have to find someone that supports you. And I think that's a huge thing that we both try to do, support each other. And then, for me, once I had my kids, like I had my son, he's actually going to be 3 in November, and then I had my daughter 3 months ago.
3 months ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. My life is chaotic.
Yeah.
But for me, myself, obviously when you have kids, your life completely changes, and your whole structure completely changed. And so for me, no matter what, I think what I do is, with work and everything like that, what comes first is, my religion, my husband, and then my kids, and my family life is first. And then, I'm mom first before I'm Victoria Dominguez Hahn with BundleBee Insurance. And I think it's always making sure that they know that, and then I'm always present in all the school stuff. Like, I'm a room mom for my son's class, and I'm still present in everything that I need to do. Obviously, it's hard to juggle everything, but and honestly, I feel like a duck that it's like it looks like I have it together, but underneath the water, I'm just going like that. Yeah. So I just think that that's extremely important, and it's extremely important to me too, because I have a daughter, to show her that you can be a good wife, you can be a good mom, and you can also work too, and have that great work balance as well.
Yeah.
And so, and I think too, that's what I'm grateful for the most. Because when I said, I took advantage of El Paso and the insurance stuff when I came back, once I had kids, my parents are super understanding of, hey, like Monday, Lucas was off because of Columbus Day. Me and his little friend, we went to the zoo, and that's a huge as dumb as it sounds, that's like a huge deal for me to go and spend some time with my son. Yeah, and spend some time with my son and still be accessible. I still have people calling and leads calling, but I'm still present for all of like the little things that go on.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of kind of being, like you said, being present for those moments.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get so busy and those moments just pass by and you don't even remember them, But if you're able to juggle all that's going on with the business and then still separate and have that line where the priorities are set and your family's set, that's, I think, super important. And we were talking about that at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Just how that interaction was with you and your husband when you guys first met, and how everything kind of just fell into place for you. And I think if you're going to be successful or be in a position to be successful, it doesn't just come with the business part and the money part. It comes with the foundation part too. The family and who you're coming home to.
Yeah.
What is that environment like? Because that's really what I think it takes to get to that next level, is that support. And obviously you can do all these things too because you have confidence in your team.
Exactly. And we have an awesome team.
Yeah.
And that's what I stress to everyone. It's not just me, it's not just my mom, it's not just my dad, it's not just the sales staff. All of us together do a really great team, and I'm very blessed to have that and to be able to do that. So, but what I tell a lot of people is, no matter what, life's a balance. So even though I might not be as successful at certain things that I am, I'm always trying to keep up with everything.
Because it's a non-stop game.
Yeah.
You're always trying to improve. One of my favorite quotes is, if you improve yourself by 1% every day, that's 375%.
That's true.
Improve, 1%, just 1%. And it's taking the time to notice those things, work on those things, and everything like that too. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to see, how far you guys have come and how much more of a legacy you're going to leave for your son, for your daughter, and it's just super cool. Do you feel like this is something that you definitely want to pass on and keep passing down to?
Well, I think going away for college, doing different things. I would always tell, like, my thing is I want my kids to go away. I want my kids to have that college experience and do all that stuff. And if they want to come back, great. I don't want to force it on them, but this is a good living too. But if they have different passions, then that's great. But I don't ever want to force it on them that they have to come back and do that. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, because we are opening the insurance company throughout all of Texas and throughout all of New Mexico. So now with this company, now we're starting it in like Austin and Dallas and San Antonio. So
That's
we're
awesome.
going to start.
Are you guys doors open already over there?
Yeah, we can write whatever.
Awesome.
We haven't had offices per se, but this is going to be the hub, and then we're going to look at opening up different branches and
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, so now we can still write obviously anything in Texas or New Mexico, but yeah, so that's what I tell a lot of people. We're not just thinking locally, we're thinking all over the place. And so that's where I see like my kids too, like they would, if they want to live somewhere else, they can.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is something that you guys would want to franchise at one point?
We would love to. I'm like, hopefully, eventually, if it gets to that level, that'd be great. But
awesome.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And business changes all the time, and I think that's the other thing too. That with in life now, with everything going on, you have to always be open for change.
For sure.
So I know with my dad when he sold the farmers agency, you think 34 years of doing the exact, like dealing with the same franchise, dealing with the same company. It was very difficult for him to finally say, you know what, I'm ready to sell it and move on. Yeah. So, but you have to go with the change because honestly, one company, they're just dying out.
Yeah, and change is exciting, right?
It is. It's awesome.
I think great things happen when change happens.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's one thing that I've noticed also with every entrepreneur that's sat, behind this mic is like everyone had to do something that was scary and new to them in order to get to where they're at right now too. So what would you say, for the people that are listening, was one of the biggest lessons for you getting into the industry, you being in this industry right now?
One of the biggest lessons probably was that I guess what I didn't realize was how there wasn't that much information. There is a lot of information, but there really isn't that much information out there for a lot of the clients. So even though, because that's why you get an insurance agent, and I think that was one of my biggest lessons is trying to get like little bits of information, not overwhelm people with it, but because a lot of people think, okay, every coverage, every company. I mean, I had somebody that the other day, they were like, well, I don't want Travelers. Travelers sucks. And I'm like, no, the company doesn't suck. It's the one who wrote that. They suck. And so I just think it's just getting the education out there, but not overwhelming people. And that's what my goal is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same with real estate too. My brand name is Real Estate Resource, and I came up with that after my first year because I felt like the same thing. There was a lack of information, a lack of resources for people that wanted to buy a house. People had so many misconceptions about buying houses, and for me, I was like, okay. So I remember my first month going into this role of Real Estate Resource. I did a 30-day buyer tip. Like every day I just came on video and I was just doing buyer tips and buyer tips. And that grew so much in those 30 days. So many people just looked at me as the expert, because I was the only one providing that information. And it's really not complicated, I think, for businesses to succeed. It's very simple, and people try and complicate it when the simplicity of it is really making it very understandable for people to know what you're getting, why you need to get it, and that's it. It's so simple. And for me, like one thing that I tell all my clients is, at the end of this transaction, you're gonna feel like a realtor because you're gonna know everything that you just did. You're gonna know what you just got yourself into, and you're gonna understand everything to a full extent. You're gonna feel like you can do my job. Like that's my goal at the end of it,
For sure.
So information is super key. Information is valuable, and I think it's also undervalued right now in a lot of industries too.
For sure. And I think, like I said, going through things that people think, oh yeah, I know all that stuff. They really don't, And even the people that are selling it don't really read the contracts like we do. So that's what I tell everyone. I'm like, read the contract. It's a contract for a reason. There's certain reasons why each company has different rates, or each company has different pricing, and because obviously one contract might be better than the other, and you have to know what you're buying.
Where it's at.
And we provide it all, and so we try to just let them know they can make their own decision after we go through all that stuff. But I feel comfortable once I, explain everything, then they can make those decisions from there. And that's what and like what you were saying, make it easier for a client to understand.
It's really as simple as that, right? Just helping them understand, because insurance is complicated. A lot of people don't know what they should get covered. They have dogs that they love, and if you don't have insurance on your dog, you don't really love your dog. Right?
Or they have pit bulls, and they don't realize that some of the insurance companies won't insure homes with pit bulls.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Or they have, on your home insurance policy, what people don't realize is when they buy homes, or they might know, I don't know, you can tell me this, that they're personally liable for anything that happens on their property. So if you have a pool, and someone drowns in that pool, you're liable. Yeah. And so do you have the right coverage for that? People don't think. I had one where the client was, that's another one, vacant properties. They're super expensive.
Oh
and people don't realize, like, why? Because you don't know who's coming in and out of your house. And I had one where the house was vacant and they were showing the house, and someone had fallen in the garage, and like an older lady had fallen. That's your liability, even though you're not there.
That happens. Yeah. One of my clients fell too.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's what I stress to people. You don't think it's going to happen. It does. Everything always happens.
Yeah.
It's better to be overly prepared than underprepared.
You'd rather be disappointed now than later, right?
Yeah.
If you have to pay more now, cool.
Yeah.
Don't get sued and then
For sure.
lose your house.
Exactly. Because and we had one where the guy had a bunch of rental properties. That's another one. If you don't have the right LLC on your rental properties, he had rented out a house to a family, and he had a bunch of different properties. But one of the kids had reached over and grabbed a hot pot and spilled it all over himself. Well, that family sued the owner, and we had told them, hey, you needed to get these certain things taken care of, so that way they can't go after your homes in your name. And so, long story short, he pretty much had to give them that house after litigation. Yeah. So
that really
that's
happened.
another thing. Yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of people too when they're like, oh, well, you know, when I call in, sometimes they ask a lot of questions. We ask a lot of questions too because we want to make sure that your home doesn't get covered. We have one where, you know, if you have, what people don't realize is when you get a quote, let's say you call the guy down the street and you're like, hey, can you insure my house? And I have a T-lock shingle roof, or I have, or the house is in bad condition, and you just write it. Well, 30 days later, I get a letter in the mail, and you know how some people don't even check their mail anymore. I get a letter in the mail that say my policy canceled, so I'm going after you, Manny, because you told me to go to that insurance company, and they're canceling me, and I don't know why. And so, and then my mortgage went up because they forced placed my mortgage insurance. So, so that's another thing that I tell a lot of people. We do the underwriting ahead of time. So it might seem like we're asking, you know, dumb questions, but we're doing it for a reason. So that way you never have to worry that we're not covering the house correctly, or they'll get a letter that says their policy's canceled.
That's so true. Honestly, you're giving me a lot of value right now because I never even thought so much as to, you know, that logic as far as what you guys do is really personal. It's a personal plan for every single person's lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and that's why when they come in, they feel so comfortable after because they're like, God, Carrera, like no one told us like all these different coverages and what they cover and what they do. We had one where the house caught fire during Christmas, and they had their family coming in from Mexico. Well, their family had a bunch of passports, so they luckily they had us that covered the house correctly, but they, farmers at the time, they paid for the whole family to live out in a hotel for 2 weeks while they got their passports, while they got everything like that. And like I said, people just don't think about stuff like that.
That happens.
It does.
It's life, right? I hear so many stories too with my clients, but that's crazy. And I really see the value in insurance, and hopefully everyone watching and hearing does also, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you have, you know, as an entrepreneur, as you know, you and the family business have been growing like crazy. What advice would you have for, you know, somebody that's wanting to start their own business, whether it's insurance, whether it's anything else? What advice would you have for that person listening?
What, like what you were saying, don't overthink it, because I think a lot of times people want to put all these game plans together and everything like that. Just do it. Just do it. Like, because you're going to have all these reasons why not to do it. Oh, I'm going to wait till I have this or wait till I have that. Just do it, and, you know, and reach out. And my biggest thing is I surround myself with people that are smarter than myself in certain aspects.
Right.
And so if I'm not that smart at something, then surround yourself with someone who is, and they can help you out with that, you know, and they can tell you, hey, like, this didn't work for me because of this, and it makes it easier for you, too.
Yeah. I think a lot of people try and be the master at everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you really have to realize that you cannot. Like, it's better to be the master at one thing or a few things than everything, because just, I don't know if you've heard it, but it takes like 17,000 hours or something like that.
No, I haven't.
To be a professional at something. You know, like, it takes a lot of work to know exactly what you're doing. And a lot of people try and start that business and take on every role.
Yeah.
And that's where they fail, because one, they realize how hard it is. And two, they realize that, you know, this didn't work because of this side. This wasn't strong, this wasn't strong. So for sure, I see where your advice comes into play, and finding out, you know, what you're strong at, and then doing that and getting some help on the other things.
Yeah, and it's just sticking to that one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself with all these things. I call it a jack of all trades and a trade of none. Just if you want to stick to this, just stick to that, and then once you grow to a certain point, then go for it. But I think a lot of people get down on themselves if something's not going well, and then they move to the next thing. And they don't put as much work as they need to.
Yeah, it takes patience.
Yeah, it takes a long time
to build this. I'm sure, you know, 34 years, you know, it's been a rough ride, but I'm sure it took even more time to get to that first year.
Well, for my parents, when they first started, it took them 11 years before they got a profit.
Yeah, so A lot of people don't.
Yeah, and they don't have the
realize
patience
that,
for that, and they just see now like, oh.
How many people do you think would have quit after the first year of not seeing profit?
Tons. I mean, right now, I believe, and like I said, don't quote me on that, but right now for agents that start up, the ratio of them not making it is about 80% within the first 5 years.
For sure.
Because they're like,
expectations are wrong.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I think everyone's expectations are wrong and don't really match their expectations with the amount of work that it's going to take.
Yeah. Well, and then like honestly, if you have like a Farmers, a State Farm, or any of those, they're going to sell you on why their franchise is great. But you don't realize on that side too that they've got rules and regulations that you have to abide by. You can't sell anything but those things. Mm-hmm. So you have to live and breathe and die from that one thing. And it worked in my parents' day and age, but now it's too hard.
Yeah.
Because then you have people like me that's like, well, come over here.
What else?
I'm like, we can offer every option, so let's see what we can do.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. Well, I think that's super important in building the team. You always have to look for that star, right? You always have to look for that. Keep an eye out for that star. I think a good business is always hiring too.
Yeah, we always are.
Yeah.
We always. In fact, I was at Las Palmas and I saw one of the managers how she was hustling to it, and I was like, I'm gonna go back over there and see if she wants a job.
That's cool. That's awesome. How big is the team right now?
Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7.
7?
Yeah.
7 agents.
And we don't need. Well, we have 4 salespeople, and then 4 sales associates, and then we have like my mom, my dad, myself, and then we have our accountant that she does a lot of the bookkeeping and stuff because we also have Mosquito Authority too. So
nice. Yeah, true.
So
that's another part of it.
Yeah, that's another thing.
It's another podcast.
But so it's just like it's surrounding yourself with a bunch of great people that, like I said, I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I didn't have the great sales team, the great backing from my parents too. Because me doing administrative work that wouldn't work out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do your parents have any entrepreneurial background as far as their parents or
no? Well, they're first generation. My mom's dad owned a grocery store. My dad, no. Actually, the reason why he got into farmers was that he was my mom was pregnant and he had gotten a job at UPS and he thought, okay, I've made it. Like it's from the barrio, I've made it. I got the job at UPS. He crashed it the first day and they fired him.
Oh my god!
And so then. From what I remember my mom saying is that she had gotten in an accident and my dad went to go talk to the farmer's agent and they were like, well, you should look at opening up a farmer's agency, and that's kind of how it went from there. Really? But they didn't have any type, and they've done...
From an accident, he said.
Yeah, and they've done so many different businesses. They had a shipping company, my dad had a liquor store too. So they're always changing, financial companies, so they're always changing, and I think that's my biggest thing that I've learned from them is that don't be afraid to change and to not just be stuck in this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Right,
because with the market, with the internet, things are just changing constantly, and you have to be open to it. For
sure. I think if you're not open-minded nowadays, like you're really signing you up for failure for sure. And I see that too in real estate too. I see a lot of agents don't want to start their IG or Facebook page. I'm just like,
you're like.
Like,
my grandma's on Facebook. Really?
Facebook.
Come on.
Literally, my grandma, both of my grandmas are on Facebook and Instagram too. So
you're like, if they can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, for sure, right? But thank you so much for being on the show. I kind of like to wrap up, the podcast with one, letting everyone know where they can find you first and foremost. Where can they find you on Facebook, Instagram?
You can find me on my Instagram name is Queen_BTX. The office is actually located at 11125 La Quinta Place, Suite A. Our number is 915-591-0075. The other way that you can reach us as well is through my Instagram, through my Facebook. My Facebook is Victoria Hahn. But any way you want to, I'm accessible. So it's not that difficult. And then
we're here late.
Yeah, we are. And the other thing too that we are doing now is if anyone that wants to put on home and we cross sell their auto, we are throwing in those Alexas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Lakes
So
are sweet.
yeah, we're
That way you
doing-
could listen to Whiskey Wednesday podcast.
That's true. That's very true. I'll put that in there too.
Yeah. Check out episode number 42.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So, yeah, and like I said, if you have questions regarding even any, I deal with different situations with different realtors too, you're more than welcome to give us a call.
Awesome. I know a lot of my realtor buddies would definitely find value in what you're offering for sure, because we all experience very confused clients.
Yeah.
2 weeks before closing too. So I know you'll help them definitely get a lot off their mind when it comes down to coverage, which is very important to them. So, my last question to you is, obviously, I love El Paso. You're born and raised here, right?
Yeah.
So being from El Paso, we have a lot of great things, I think, to offer as a city.
Yeah.
Especially food.
There's tons. That's my problem.
Yeah, mine too. So what would you say are 3 of your favorite places here in El Paso? One to eat, one to hang out, and another to celebrate a great month or birthday.
Oh my gosh. To eat, that's hard.
That's always the hardest one.
Yeah.
It's the hardest question in this whole podcast.
I mean, if we're going, bougie, I'm saying Cafe Central. I love that place. I love that place. If we're going like general, with the family and stuff, I love Julio's Mexican food. It's awesome.
Julio's.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dish?
Their flautas oaxaqueñas with the guacamole on it. Oh, it's so good.
Those are so bomb.
They are.
El Paso.
They
right?
are. I'm like, that's my problem.
Flautas, get away.
And then what was the other one?
So, what's your favorite place to hang out?
Hang out. I'm I do a lot of boring stuff with the kids.
That's your favorite place.
The fountains is great. I love how they did the fountains for the family. Right now,
the middle area.
Yeah, and right now the one that's really sticking out to me as of this point with the kids and stuff is the new Cimarron area where they've got where they put a Julio's out there, and I recently had brunch at the Grove with one of my girlfriends.
Nice.
And
what'd you think?
Oh, it was awesome,
yeah.
and it's so cool, and they have it so open, and you can take kids, and they have kids restaurants that.
Right.
So they make it more family friendly.
El Paso's growing in every direction right now.
It is.
It's exciting to see for sure.
It is.
What's one of your favorite places to celebrate? Maybe a birthday or go out.
Where are we going down at? I'm trying. The last one I did was probably Malo Lam. That's a lot of fun.
I love Malo.
Because I don't feel like I'm too old for that age range, I guess.
You're not old.
No, but I'm not
I get you,
know what
but
I mean?
I love Malo. I think Malo is vibes. And they have great food too. If you go early enough, you can catch the kitchen.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have really, really good food. But I love Malo too. We were actually, last episode, we were at Chuco Cigars, and it's right in front of Malo. So you should check that place out too.
Oh, yeah, I'll check it
A
out.
bunch of whiskey.
Oh, I'm down.
It's really cool.
I'm
You're
down.
already a connoisseur. Right?
That's true.
Take your dad too. He'll like it.
He's
for sure.
crazy.
Yeah. But Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and I know everyone listening, if you made it this far, you definitely got some value for sure.
Yeah.
I know a lot of realtors in the industry are gonna see that value too. But thank you so much, and really excited for this episode to pop out next Wednesday.
Me too.
So make sure you tell all your friends, your family.
I will.
everyone.
I'll tell them to tune in.
And I'll tell mine. But thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in every single Wednesday where we have entrepreneurs, influencers, movers, and shakers, just like Victoria here. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Take care.